So let me start to welcome you for this short talk. My name is Christiane, and I'm working for SAP, so in a completely different context. But before I start with the talk, I would like to share a picture I just took. I'm based in Germany, and we have a beautiful evening out there. So it's warm, and it has been a very sunny day. So maybe time for a sundowner in half an hour. Okay, welcome. What this talk is about. So what I want to do is I would like to share some thoughts and observations, and I hope that we have a lively talking about ideas. I will share my ideas, and I have to admit, I feel a little bit intimidated with all these computer scientists and teachers because like my daily work is very, very different. The last time I felt like that was when I was like 4 years old and I went to the ballet and we were asked to prepare a little dance, and everybody came with classical music and just me, I came with pop music. So it felt a little strange. But let me get started. I would like to ask you, and I cannot see the chat, so maybe you could just tell me if you are okay. Otherwise, I will change my side. Maybe I can see the chat then. What do you really like to do? What is your like hobby? Maybe think of your hobby.
I like to knit.
To knit. Anything else? This was Emily, right? Who was into the, we already have the name, turtleneck.
Play music?
Yes, and I've got my socks here.
Anybody else who would like to share what she or he really, really likes?
Play music? Play on the
Play
piano?
music. Anything else?
Woodworking.
Woodworking. Anything else?
Another woodworker here.
Cool.
I'd like to ride a unicycle.
Cooking.
Walking in nature.
So all those beautiful things, keep them in mind, and then remember your first own Snap project. Which idea did you transfer to code? Can you think of that? I don't know how long it is ago. So as said, I'm not a computer scientist. I did like very, very, very small things in Snap, but coming from a different angle to this beautiful medium Snap. So can you remember your first project? I see some. Emily agreeing. So my question to you is, do you see any connection between what is really meaningful to you and what you really like to do and what you did when you did your first own unguided Snap project? I would be happy to get feedback.
I learned to use Snap with a hummingbird bit. So my first project was actually physical computing and making a robot and using the servos and all that to control it through Snap.
And you were a woodworker, like this is what you liked?
Yes, yeah.
So do you see a connection? So something to touch?
Yes, yes. Physical computing, I like making things. So that's what I like to instill into my students.
Cool. Anybody else who saw a connection
And my first Scratch project was making an art piece using repetition, and that is what I do when I knit as well.
Interesting. Interesting. Anybody else who would like to share an own experience? So why did I ask this? I'm a mother, but when my child was young, I didn't know Snap. And now she studies medicine, and I don't know. I couldn't try it out with her, but I have nephews and nieces, and I changed the pictures and the names. But it was for her before she went to school, and he was like 8 years old, just started with school. And I opened Snap, and I didn't give them a specific idea of what they should do. I just showed them, hey, you have a camera, you have a pencil, and you can make things move, and you can do all kinds of things, nothing else. Like I did it with my daughter, I gave her paper and pencils. I didn't tell her paint a house or paint a car or paint a flower or paint a tree. I just gave her the paper and the pencils, and she started to do something. So for me, it was very interesting watching her at that time, because sometimes she painted interesting things. Like, for example, she painted people who in reality had the same size, one really tall and the other one really small. And I thought, interesting. So my niece, she is not typical, like if we have the gender stereotypes in mind, she's into technical stuff. So she has a camera and she opens it and she wants to know what's inside. So she's very interested in these things, and she's a mover. She moves all day. And what she did, she used paint, and she painted a car and she made it move. And he is into animals, and he likes music a lot, and he painted a cat, and the cat meowed. And I thought, interesting, because a car could have made a sound as well, and the cat could have moved. So, and I started, and probably you all have written these books years ago. I didn't, but then I went back to Mindstorms and I thought, what did Seymour think when Logo was created? And I read, children are not empty vessels. And I felt, oh yes, this is so true. There already is something in the children. They are not empty. They bring a lot of things with them. And the other thing, what really was resonating with me, learning by doing and by thinking about what you do. And as well, like this sentence, how knowledge develops in children elucidate the nature of knowledge in general. I found that very, very interesting. Then I found the term syntonic learning, like children's sense as themselves as people with intention, goals, desires, likes and dislikes. And any form of learning which somehow engages, this is meant by syntonic learning, with the students' existing knowledge and concerns. So I ask myself, I know that, and I have seen a lot of talks around Snap, and I'm always fascinated and impressed what you can do with this tool and how you use like math and computer science. Like, this is really no ceilings, what Jens uses to say, and I agree. And I ask myself, not being a computer scientist, can we use this platform, this wonderful platform, to just observe children and let them reflect on themselves without guiding them too much, just letting them know, like if you come to a room and there are pencils, there are instruments, and there are cameras, and there is wood, and there is a knitting machine, like there are so many things you could do, and you just let them go in and let them touch the stuff and explore without pre-allocating something, by giving them a clear path. Now, today we do X, Y, Z. This is what I asked myself, and this is what I would like to talk about with you. So if you think about learning, there are some elements in learning, like repetition and patterns, but as well emotion, senses, and movement, and probably a lot of things at the same time. And looking at Snap, I see that you can, like, a lot of components in learning itself are represented in Snap. And the more sophisticated this environment gets, the more you can do with it, and the more you can observe what children intuitively do. And my, I don't know, fantasy is my thinking that by observing them, without guiding them, without giving them a topic, they could learn a lot about themselves, what is their intuitive access to things and to learning. So the next, what I asked myself, what if the students get the opportunity to explore whatever they want? What if we let them use Snap as a playground, which gives them even more opportunity to combine things as the real world does? For example, they could play a sound and connect it with color at the same time. So they could, like, do things combining many senses without the need to change a room. And many children don't have all these things at home. So it opens up completely new worlds to them. And the nice thing is they are the director of the story they tell. Children are often told, do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. And in that environment, they can just do what they want to do. And my assumption is they learn math, by the way, because they want to tell a certain story or they want to express a certain idea. Another thing, I'm not sure in how far children are used to reflect about their own behavior and action. And I think it would be cool to incorporate that in every lesson. Let them think about what they did and why they did it. Maybe you all do that already, and I just haven't had enough exposure to see that. So self-efficiency, I think, is a really important thing in life. And not being a follower, but being an own creator is very, very relevant. And I think Snap gives this opportunity. So the next observation, I asked Yatka, and it was just a week before last in a workshop. I said, don't let's do the Snap and Art module or Snap Gardening, or I don't know, there are lots of beautiful learning modules. Let's do it differently. Let's just explain them. Here's the control area. Here you can play sound. This is if you like math and you want to calculate. There are a lot of stuff, but you can paint, you can change looks, you can tell stories. And then we had a couple of students, and I started with the same questions. I started here and I asked them, what's your favorite hobby? And why do you like it? And one student said she likes circus and she likes movement, and her project was a Quidditch game. Interesting. And another student, this was an easy one, he was already into coding and he liked Minecraft, and so he coded a game, a Minecraft game. And another student, she is a little actress, so she likes acting and painting. And what she did do, she created a story like a fantasy role play. When we do with young thinkers our learning parties and festivals, we always like have different topics just as an offer for our little young thinkers and guests, learners, and they just come and choose whatever they feel like. So my idea is maybe let them start to explore themselves, and if they need guidance, and for sure they will need guidance, they can raise the hand and they can get on demand help and learning. So this is not like, there's not a big sample behind, though this is not a research, I can say this is like this, because it's very hard to measure all that. And I think it could be, and I saw that it's not easy to let them, to just don't give them guidance too early, to watch them struggling, because it's always easier to follow than to start going and explore on your own. But this is actually what I observed with my own child and many other childs. Before they go to school, they are all little explorers. They observe and they try. And I think some might feel frustrated because the success is coming a lot quicker. If somebody tells you do this and you do it and wow, it happens. Self-reflection might be a critical point, because I don't know if this is embedded in your classes. I saw relatively little of that in the classes I attended. And for sure, some of the blocks like paint are probably easier than others, so they might switch to that. But I have, I don't know if you know, there's in India, they made this famous experiment, like hole in the wall it's called, from Sugata Mitra, when he placed laptops on a wall without saying anything, and he just put them there. And children came and they started to open them and check them, and they managed to work with them without instructions. Very interesting. So thanks for your time. And now I would really, really like to hear what you think.
Yeah, Christiane, Andreas here. What you said, that really made me think. You know, I also give this robot workshops, and I often give them in the format that we have, that I have 20 or 30 minutes at most to show them the basics of programming a robot. So instead of having 2 hours like we had here in the Learn Gaming with Snap, Learn Snap with Gaming thing, I only have very, very little time. So what I do is I show them on basically one slide all the commands they can use, all the simple commands to either move this robot, or let him make sound, or let him blink, or show a little graphic on a display or something like that. And then I show them, okay, if you want to have it multiple times, use that. If you want to have it dependent on some input, use that. Pretty simple, yeah, just 2 or 3 control structures and some inputs and outputs. It fits on one slide, and then I let them go. And usually what happens after whatever 10 minutes, you have to say the first robots, whatever, which are able to evade walls and drive around by themselves, yeah. But other people, whatever, program music on it, other children do some graphics, stuff like that, without me guiding them. So it's just that, hey, here's what you can do whatever you like, and they do it, yeah. So that I think this works much better than all these topic-based workshops that we sometimes have. Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that you made kind of a similar experience. And I don't know, we now have tools. Technology allows us to be a lot more specific and individualized. And if you start with a certain topic, you might reach a certain number of learners in your room, but not others. And I think the theme, the topic is one point, and then which senses. Some people, I don't know, for example, I need to watch things. I need to touch things. Listening is very hard for me to learn this stuff, but I would like to hear others. At least I would be very happy if you would unmute yourself and say something.
I think the focus on kind of undirected instruction is a really great move towards being student-centric. A lot of the time we always think like we have very limited time and we need to achieve this goal, and you know we need to get the kids to make this one thing or do this one thing or learn this one thing, but really the outcome we're looking for is so much more identity-based and, you know, practices and being willing to try new things and all of these that often they can find the thing that is more, you know, actually makes them learn more in that same amount of time. But then we need scaffolding for everyone to be able to handle that.
Maybe it would imply to change the whole schooling system. Because I can say, because I'm working for a company, and I'm in a very lucky position within that company, but usually companies are very KPI driven. So efficiency, efficiency, efficiency. And in school, like with the grades, I personally don't want to give grades, because you learn for yourself and for your life. And the earlier you understand, the better it is. But I don't know. Other voices?
It's hard to help a class of 30 working in pairs, 15 different pairs, all working on their own projects when they don't know the basics. So I find I have to teach at least the basics, highly structured, do this, do that, follow this, so that you have enough skills. I mean, I've never tried just sitting in a class of 30 and saying, here's a laptop, you know, run Scratch or Snap and see how it goes. But when I get to a club, when there's less of them, I find I can run around faster to help them when they get stuck, when they want to do an idea and then they're not sure how to implement it, and I want to give them a pointer. I don't want to tell them what to do it, but I might want to say, well, have you looked at that block or that category or something? But certainly to start with, that would be tricky in a 30 class situation, I feel, with one teacher.
Yeah.
I would love to experiment what, like, I could assume if they start that they, like, it's with, if you observe children in kindergarten, they have an idea, and if one doesn't have an idea, the other one has an idea, and they immediately start to, I don't know, help themselves. I feel sometimes they rely too much on guidance, and they, I don't know, I have no definite answer. This is just my fantasy that they can do a lot more than we think they can. But it would be an experiment.
Yes.
I think you can achieve what Christiane said, so let them do exploration without giving them external guidance. I mean, when you would confront whatever, a 10-year-old maybe, or even a 12-year-old with Snap as it is today, they would be overwhelmed. So maybe you could use this blocks, this slimmed down version of Snap as a starter, and let them go into something more powerful after 2 or 3 lessons. Yeah.
This is what I thought. I saw in the lightning talk the Blob from Federico, and I thought, how cool is this? So you could basically build your own environment, and then you could grow with your environment. Like you could strip it down, and then you could increase it again.
Yeah.
Very cool.
You could build an environment and then give them that as a very simple playground to start with, and then just give a better playground later on, but still let them play around in it.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think it depends very much on the course situation and how many children are around. And in the end, of course, it could be very hard for the teacher, as somebody already said, to support the individual student in their wishes. But there was one person I saw and participated in a workshop with, and it was Derek Breen, who had this in that workshop, that vision that you go into the room and don't start with a lot of instructions and let the children just jump into their experience right away. I was very impressed when I realized that he followed that idea, and I always keep in my mind when I prepare a workshop, and always try to start in a little bit a different way in my workshops. I rethink it every time. So he was inspiring for me.
Thank you, Andrea. And maybe, I don't know, maybe it's logical that I am trying these things as a person. Who am I? Because when I started sewing, for example, I saw that my mother had an old machine standing there, and I just fetched the machine, and I think I just tried. Was it perfect? No. But did I read any instructions? I hardly did ever read instructions. So this is just my learning style, probably, which I bring to, with which I would like to experiment with. Other voices? So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and your feedback. Yeah.
Would you mind if I share for a second what
No.
I used in the? Okay.
No, you can. If you are a host, I think you need to be at least a co-host. Let me check.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
So unfortunately it's in German, but that's what I use in this whatever 20 or 30-minute workshop. So it's with a robot, but it would work with a snap turtle as well. So I explain them the components, the LEDs and the sensors and the motors and whatever. That's the first slide. Second slide, this is even a subset. I mean, the language here is also a graphical language, and it's even a slimmed down version for let's say primary school children. And I even slim this down a bit by only using a subset of the commands. And okay, say them here are the movements, here are the light and sound, here are the sensors, and this is the control, and this does this. And usually I'm done after 5 minutes, and then they do the rest. And usually they only require help with troubleshooting. Yeah, so they don't require help to achieve their ideas. They require just help with troubleshooting because they deleted something accidentally or something. Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, let them collect as much own experience as possible. Don't be afraid of that. At least this is what I tried when raising my child, and I don't know if all childs are the same. I know that I felt too much guidance and too much rules during my own growing up. And yeah, I think we're at the end of the talk. As I said, Happy to talk again. We have more days to come. And I'm very, very interested in further exchange. And I will do more experiments and share them maybe next year. Have a good evening.